Yep, all I got was how people are completely doing things wrong, which has basically caused this division between a certain part of certain populations and another part, basically because they are being governed differently. I'll give you an example. The Black Lives Matter movement. Now, this movement started because it went viral, right? It went viral and people started to protest. But let's please go back to the root cause, which is what was it? Super predators. Yeah, these young men are super predators. They have no remorse. And that sent shockwaves into the white community. Shockwaves. And in turn, a lot of young black men got criminalized. And that badge of if you are black, you might just be a criminal and so forth, returned again. It was absent. Remember, Martin Luther King gave black people that legacy of a black man can also be an achiever. And that was one of the biggest mistakes, and a word that should never have been used, because it caused people to panic. And it set, the incident in California where the man's daughter got shot by someone who was high on drugs, who wasn't black, by the way, but which led to the he went on the radio. It basically went viral for that time, how things went viral that time. And eventually the 3-strike rule came into play. And the problem with it is, even for petty crimes, you get a strike. There's a man who, on his 3rd strike, he stole a sandwich. Literally a sandwich. Because he couldn't get employment. He's a former, he was formerly incarcerated, so he couldn't get a job, really. And that just really shows you how the system was set up against itself in terms of law reform. Law reform, which should have happened really during the era of the assassinations of black men of influence. Now, today, those are lacking, because today we don't need black men of influence anymore. We need men of influence for black people and white people. Someone who can put their biases aside, or not even actually have the biases, although we all inherently due to television and all of that have certain biases. For example, in Hollywood there was that time when casting Arabs as terrorist, what was considered as a racist. Like, why is it always terrorists that Arabs that cast as terrorists, right? And today, a young black man who grew up in an environment where he doesn't really know any better could break into a car and try to steal it, get caught, and end up in prison. And in prison, that's where they actually change. It makes them hard. We all know the story of the 23-year-old who ended up committing suicide because he was being accused of a crime he didn't commit, and he was just sick of it. He spent those years in jail. It tormented him, and he knew he was innocent. And at the end of the day, he decided to come out and speak out for people who go through these instances. But the trauma was so bad that he ended up committing suicides. Now, that's post-traumatic stress. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I figure it can be perceived as that. So there's a need for prison reform. But if you need prison reform, then you also have to extend it to the community. And extending it to the community, it means creating bridges where bridges were burned, turning bad neighborhoods into regular neighborhoods. The amount of money that goes into these so-called bad neighborhoods compared to the money that is spent on others is unfair, to a fault that you can do the math and it will show you that there is a clear bias there. And institutions of leadership don't necessarily mean that someone is going to become a leader, politician, or anything. No, it just means they'll be able to lead themselves. And that's what a lot of us in our mid-20s and so forth struggle with. I was disciplined. My mother disciplined me, actually. My father was in the military, so there were certain traits of discipline that I got from there. And so, I can't say I have absolute discipline over myself. But I know that the image you put out, no matter what, whether it's to show the world you don't care, like a lot of celebrities do, where they wear see-through clothing and all of that. It's like, I don't care anyway. Well, the thing is, self-respect and dignity, that's yours. It doesn't belong to the people who judge you. So if you take that away from yourself, it's your loss, not theirs. And yeah, to say being naked is no big deal. I mean, come on, read the Bible. How old is that book? And even in that book, finding out they were naked was like this big um, revelation. Like we should cover ourselves up. Not saying, I fully believe that happened. I'm just saying, uh, look at the records. Um, Even some cavemen used to wear some form of clothing to cover up. So it's not about teaching people how to behave. It's about teaching people how to be themselves, how to guide themselves to be themselves, how to not fall prey to the whole it's me against the world. They people say this, people say no. No one should go to sleep like that. And you block it simply like you could meditate. I meditate. Or you simply block it by thinking about all of the good things that other people have said to you, by going through all of the good things that people have said to you, as opposed to the negative aspects of all of it. And it's leadership not only for men, but also for women. What is a gentleman? Nowadays it's so, it's an old, women can do what a man can do. So what is a gentleman? Well, I think a gentleman is someone who understands that no matter what, men are physically stronger than women. And you get tough women, you do, that can beat up a man, you can. But just give me the percentage of that. How many women really care? And how many women succumb to abuse? And it's 16 days of orange. So consider that a tribute to that. It's not a lot. And how many women abuse men emotionally, because women have the strength of emotion, right? While men can be tough and try to be tough and short, but they can't really express themselves, which is where women win. And some men get abused emotionally to that extent. So yeah, should really rethink not only other people's behaviors but our own, because we make up communities, we make up the society. And if we can start to have more introspection, right, be more honest with ourselves and others, then that will eventually ripple out. Then you don't have bad neighborhoods, because that's just a creation. Just like skin color, race was a creation. If you look at books from the 1700s, 1600s, they don't actually speak of race. even though they saw people of a different skin tone than themselves. So a race is, like it was said, it's a cultural evil. Alright. So anybody can be racist. It's not fair to just judge some and leave some out. Um, and I think I'll leave it at that. I think this will be skipped. I don't think there was anything really important said.